So let's talk about this James Harden effect and what it's done for the Clippers. As we know, James Harden was traded to the Clippers. I made a video about it. It was big news, and everyone saw it. We don't have to act surprised as if this is new news. The James Harden was traded, and it's facts. He was traded from Philly. He wanted out of Philly. He didn't care about Philly anymore. And really, the biggest thing with him was just that Philly, it was like he was sick of Philly, because he was there like, you guys won't pay me. You guys made a promise to me. Daryl Morey promised me that he was going to actually pay me, but he didn't. And now I'm mad, and I don't want to be in this team anymore, and I want to leave. So he did. He left the team. He didn't get traded, but he left training camp. He wasn't going to the games. He was on the team, because he was signed to the team, but he was not really on the team spiritually in any way. So we saw this, and it really caused, a significant, very significant, outburst in media, in news, and in people saying like, yo, where is this dude going to go? Right? Right? And that caused the league to basically say like, well, okay, if this dude's not going to show up, we're either going to fine him or he has to come back, eventually. With this being said though, we do have to say that James Harden was smart about this. He ran a press tour. He spoke to media fans. He got people against Daryl Morey. He went to China, which is a place where they don't like Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey being the GM of the Sixers, basically the guy who trades people for the Sixers. And basically, he ran this press tour just to leave, the Sixers. He didn't want to be there anymore. It was evident. It was obvious. They didn't have to fight over it. They didn't have to make any new rules. It was a mutual, divorce, but they both wanted the best thing for each other. So in my opinion, if from there on out, it was just which team is going to trade for him. And if we're being honest, apart from maybe three teams, which are like the Clippers, Miami, and like maybe a team like the Wizards, but they're rebuilding, actually had enough, talent, assets, and like real, intention to make this trade. There were the three teams that were not the Clippers, and these three teams did not do anything, They didn't really show interest. Miami was riding on what they have now, and even if they wanted James Harden, I think after seeing the Philly situation, I don't think that they wanted any piece of James Harden, as we know that the Miami doesn't play about their players. Their players, have to play into Miami's system. Miami doesn't play into you unless you're maybe LeBron, Shaq, Kobe, or a guy of that magnitude. And even then, those guys also have to adapt, to the Heat culture. If we're being 1,000% honest, I know that a lot of people find it corny, but that's just the truth. So then, this Heat culture obviously didn't allow them to trade for James Harden after all the stuff that he's done. A team like the Wizards, they're rebuilding, so it didn't make sense for them to trade for Harden. And honestly, the Clippers are the only team where it made sense to really do it. Even if it wasn't the correct decision, it just did make sense on paper. You have now a playmaker, a guy who really, who's worked in a system, who's been able to pass and make plays for your teammates. You have a team which is trying to win a championship. This guy is a superstar. Bring him in. Now, on surface level, how I just said, it makes sense. Bring him in. What is the worst thing he could do? Obviously, we know that that was a mistake now, because they have lost 4 games straight. I'm talking about the Clippers. Meanwhile, on the other side, the 76ers, which lost James Harden, have won and only gained back, depth pieces and players which are, supposed to add to their already existing tandem of Tyrese Maxey and, Joel Embiid. They, are winning games, a lot of games. They are the best team in the league right now. And they've only lost one game, if I'm not mistaken. They're on a win streak right now. So when you look at that, and when we look at that being a real fact for them, we could see that it's obvious that James Harden was the problem. And for the Clippers, we could see that they didn't need James Harden. If you didn't know, before they traded for James Harden, their starting five, that PG, Zubac, Robert Covington, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi, like that starting five had I think it was plus 36 plus minus, and they had the second best record, I'm pretty sure in the West, if I'm not mistaken. They also had the second best net rating as a starting five in the league. And they were a team in which Paul George was looking like seriously an All-NBA player again. Kawhi was looking like Kawhi. And the team looked a bit rough, but it looked like it was getting back to form. Meanwhile, they were playing with each other. And that happened. This great fact, Paul George is finally looking like himself. The team is playing great. They have a great net rating, a great record. And then they trade for Harden and they lose 4 straight times. And these losses haven't been against great teams, It's not like they're losing against the Nuggets or the Sixers, which now are the best teams. They're losing to like the Knicks and the Grizzlies, which, yes, the Knicks and the Grizzlies are great teams, but come on, let's be serious. Those are not teams which are supposed to even make the playoffs this year or make a high playoff seeding. So in the end, when we look at this team and how they operate, we can see that it just doesn't make sense to have James Harden. James Harden is a great player. He's an all-time player. He's a legend. But his place in the NBA is either he has to fit into a system and do what he's told, or he's going to get kicked out of the league. He's a great system player. He will be your system, like he said. He will get you all the assists, all the scoring that you need. But it's going to cost the rest of your team to do that. And that's just the reality. You see, in the Sixers, you could tell that he wanted to help Embiid because it was a mutual help. He helped Embiid get points. Embiid helped him get assists. And eventually, Embiid led the league in scoring, and James Harden led the league in assists. So it was a beautiful pairing. Even if you didn't like how they did in the playoffs, even if there was some chemistry issues sometimes with who gets what shot, there was at least 2 guys who understood each other and their roles in the team. But on the Clippers, I think James Harden thinks that he came to the Clippers to be himself. And that's something that Russell Westbrook had to learn the hard way. You are not yourself on the Clippers. You are who the Clippers want you to be. And that's just because there's so much talent on the team and so much talent that there's that's greater than you, that you can't be yourself. It's like Bosh in Miami. It's like, Klay Thompson when KD went to Golden State. It's like Kyrie now that he's in Dallas. It's like these guys learned. There's obviously an alpha here. There's a big dog. But I'm also a big dog. So I'm going to do what I'm, asked to do. And I'm going to do that well. But I'm going to respect the limits. And by the way, also the Clippers also lost to the, Mavericks. But yeah. So that's all I wanted to say. And honestly, I just hope that James Harden can figure it out or that they can trade him or waive him soon. Peace.